It's Peter Thomas Senese, the author of Chasing the Cyclone, here once again to talk this time about post-abduction, reunification, and the abducting parent. By no means am I an expert on how to advise on a child's re-entry into their community post-parental abduction. Nor do I profess to possess all of the needed wisdom on how a parent should act once a reunification successfully occurs concerning ongoing prevention with respect to potential acts of future abduction. There are no easy solutions. However, there is one goal: to be able to allow your innocent child or children, well, to be children. Clearly, each international abduction case is remarkably unique regardless of the common elements that may be attributed to these types of cases and the individuals that commit these crimes against our children. Additionally, in situations where there exist no acts of abuse, why and how do you allow and facilitate an abducting parent who committed the horrendous criminal act of abduction against your child back into both of your lives? And how do you actually deal with a person who more than likely did everything possible to slander your name and your reputation in order to stage a defense against a criminal act of international parental child abduction? Further, if you agree to do so, then at what capacity? Unquestionably, there's a great amount of risk here, and not just with the coyotes in the background. On one hand, your greatest responsibility as a parent is to ensure that your child's safety, which includes preventing any threat of abduction from occurring again. On the other hand, what you fought for when you recovered your child was for your child's rights to know the love of both parents in an environment that empowers their sense of identity. And on top of all of this is the reality that you, a successful chasing parent, must deal with very real possibility that your former spouse still may be very bitter and resentful of you. There does exist the possibility that this person may attempt to cause you harm whenever the opportunity arises. In between the lines, trying to determine your child's best interest are the judges, the mediators, and the law policymakers. Did I mention none of this is easy? It's not. That said, my child is home, and I can tell you, our life together is fantastic. He is so well adjusted, and he is happy, genuinely happy. So I thought that by making this video and sharing some insight, that I thought perhaps some parents may find some useful straight talk that may benefit your child's short-term and long-term happiness and stability. Now first, let me say that I am fully aware that not every situation will or should call for or allow for both parents to be part of a child's life. When there exist grave concerns of reabduction or any other type of danger, protect your child from that danger. And any notion of dual parental reentry should be avoided at all costs. In cases where there is great concern and mistrust, mediation can provide much needed intervention. Ideally, there should not be one single child that should have to endure parental abduction. If it is realistically safe for you and your child to allow a post-abducting parent who is desirous and capable of re-entering your lives to do so, and you wish to support your child by having both parents in their life, then your decision to travel down the path of careful reconciliation in the name of your child may be a very wise one. It is here, in a structured re-entry, that hope exists. The trauma your child experienced during their abduction can eventually fade, with professional intervention and healing. These children can have a normal life filled with magic and wonderment if you live with an open heart. Surely this is what your desire is, to have a magical, harmonious life for your child. Again, it is not going to be easy, and there are many situations where one parent's re-entry will cause more damage than good. Perhaps these discussions can begin to take place with a professional mediator who has experience and knowledge in the area. Be forewarned though, do not act blindly and do not forget the past events. Make sure that if you allow re-entry, that every step is made to remove any form of re-abduction or abuse. All jurisdictional legalities should be first addressed, and you should carefully craft any access orders before the child leaves the jurisdiction, if you allow for that to happen. Once these steps are taken, the custodial parent can begin to encourage the child to have access with the abducting parent. Dialogue and visits with the abducting parent can assist the child and fully allow for the healing process to continue. This can empower the child, which in the long term will help their growth and development. After all, we do not want our children to take on the role of victim, but the role of survivor. This will strengthen their spirit and empower them, teaching them the future does not have to be like the past. Now, I imagine you might be wondering why I think I might have some authority to share some of my viewpoints. Well, as I had stated earlier, I am a chasing parent who has successfully recovered, reunited, and re-entered my community with my child. And along the way, we have created an environment that has made it possible for him to receive and understand the love of both of his parents. Openly, it is not easy, and I do live with daily concern that my former spouse may attempt to hurt me if ever given the opportunity. It is a risk that I have presently decided to take for my son's sake. You may take what you want from what I share, but I thought certain individuals might benefit from the lessons I have learned personally and also educated on by other chasing parents who have previously addressed issues of re-entry. Before I go any further, I want to reinforce my position that I strongly support the full and complete enforcement of all criminal laws created to prevent parental child abduction in each and every arena. When one parent chooses to deny a child their rights to the other parent by breaking the laws that govern the child's welfare, purposefully removing or detaining their child from the country that they lived in to a foreign country without the consent of the other parent, this cruel criminal act of kidnapping places the child, along with all other parties, including the abducting party as well as the chasing parent, in a position of grave and severe risk. I also believe that our court system and the lack of knowledge and education by judges in the area of international parental child abduction and international custodial jurisdiction is a significant reason why there are so many international child abduction cases. Our legal system does not work the way it has the potential to. What I mean by our legal system are the courts, generally worldwide, and how they handle both incoming and outgoing international child abduction cases. Training and research in this area can bring about immediate and much needed change. An informed and uneducated judicial system plays a heavy role in the cruelty our children face, and there are many other problems that must be addressed. However, prevention must first start with creating a highly trained judicial system supported with heavy research and people with hands-on experience. One highly regarded suggestion with respect to overhauling the legal system is for nations to form a body of judges and mediators solely trained to serve in parental abduction tribunal units. This unit would be responsible for hearing international child abduction cases. This idea has come from the United Kingdom. Now back to reentry and post-abduction. Here are some suggestions I have implemented that appear to be working for my own son. None of them have been easy to do, but due to their efforts, my child lives a worry-free life in a safe environment, one filled with love. Number one, you have to lose the ego. Let's be frank about certain realities. First, as a successful chasing parent, you probably do not like or trust the other parent, and obviously for good reason. You are forced into the deadliest of storms by the act of utter abuse, the abduction of your child. You may still view your child's other parent as your enemy, and you may still have great fear of that person's capability. However, your child probably doesn't view that parent as their enemy, and if they do, then you better stop whatever you're doing and help change that perspective, because it will cripple any sense of security and identity that he or she may have. What you need to know is that your child needs your love as well as the love of the other parent. This doesn't mean that you need to be that person's best friend, but you need to be able to compartmentalize certain parts of your painful history so that you both can act in your child's best interest. The second issue is forgiveness. After you decided that you're going to do your best to lose your ego and compartmentalize your anger, the next critical step in being able to facilitate your child's reentry is probably the most difficult of all things you will be required to do: to act in forgiveness. Okay, I know how hard this issue is. That is why you need to lose your ego first. But once you've tossed it, remember these words: your child needs you to act in forgiveness. If you fail to do so, then you are creating an environment filled with hostility and fear, which will cause potentially irreparable and severe psychological damage to your innocent child. So if you want your child to grow up a mess, then hold on to your anger and your hatred. Alternatively, you can set an example for your child that will be one of the greatest gifts that you will ever share. Teach the powerful act of forgiveness. The third issue is to create an environment of expression. Regardless of whether you want to believe it or not, once a child is wrongfully removed or detained by one parent from the other, the child lives in a perpetual state of fear and worry. This precludes them from being able to share openly their feelings or emotions. In every conceivable way, your child previously lived in a psychological prison where true freedom of expression caused great anxiety. Whilst held in this state, and with each passing day, a part of their spirit died. You do not want to create another spiritual prison. Critically, you must create a nurturing and free environment that fosters open communication filled with empowering support and understanding of your child's needs and desires. To put it bluntly, you need to allow your child to feel safe and unencumbered in being able to talk about anything that they desire without concern of backlash or retribution in the event that you disagree with their views. Similarly, your child may desire to bring up the subject that you may not want to speak about. Remember, the more open and supportive you are of your child's views and perspectives, the more trust you will build. Trusting is everything. Which leads us to number 4, trust. Probably the most difficult of all things an abducted child must learn to live with is the task of determining how to live with a lack of trust created by their abduction experience. Trust needs to be rebuilt for your child regardless of your perspective on what occurred and who is responsible. Remember, from your child's perspective, the system that they counted on, the love and support of both mother and father, failed. Right now is probably a good time to remind you of the first golden rule. Get rid of your ego. The only perspective that really matters is the view of your child. And clearly, your child's trust was breached. So too is mine. So, a few suggestions for you to consider to restore trust include doing what you say you're going to do and do it every time. Never speak poorly about your child's other parent. Never discard or hinder your child's right to the other parent if it is safe. Reinforce the idea your child was not responsible for the trauma that had occurred. Make sure you actively reintroduce your child to the community that is part of their identity. And always tell them the truth. As I had said, do what you say you're going to do. Number 5 is the issue and topic of family. Now remember, your child's family includes both of you and your ex-spouse or spouse. In being significant parts of your child's family, both parents may provide critical components of your child's identity. I'm aware that this is not always the case, and there are individuals out there who should never have been parents to begin with. But what you need to do is guard against is creating a platform where your child's identity is associated with anger and hatred. Isn't it better, in the very least, to have cooperative distance? If this is the case, then perhaps the most helpful idea I can provide is this. Don't go out of your way to hurt or be unfair to the other parent when it comes to their interaction with the child. If you do, what you're really doing in the end is punishing your child. Number 6, a safe place to disagree. There are going to be times when the two of you will not agree on certain issues. What you need to do when this occurs is to remember not to talk poorly about the other parent in front of your child, and make sure that there is a mechanism, perhaps mediation, in place that can assist each of you through any difficulties. Number 7 is really simple. Follow the laws with regard to your custody agreement and never waver on them. Number 8, be demonstrative. This one's really easy for me. Take an interest in what your child is doing, participate in those interests as much as you can, and remember, when you do, a hug and a kiss followed by the words, "I love you," or "I am so proud of you," will mean a great deal to your child and children long after they have grown into adulthood. Number 9, when in doubt, act on the side of caution. As a chasing parent, you and your child would not be in this position you are both in unless there was a well-orchestrated conspiracy to abduct your child was not carried out by the other parent. Do not forget how clever that plan was and how you were perhaps caught off guard. I know I was. One simple rule to live by. If something doesn't seem right, it probably is not. If this is the case, act with great caution and always act and ask for the advice of both law enforcement and a good lawyer. Number 10, critically, let your child be a child. Remember, your child has the right to be a child. It's only going to happen once. Let that happen. Number 11, be ready for an attack. The reality of an abducting parent situation, once they are ordered home, is that these individuals are typically angry, bitter, and hostile. In addition, there has been much said about the fact that in the vast majority of cases, abducting parents do have serious mental problems. So you must remember that there is a chance that revenge and the desire to cause a chasing parent left behind in the wake of an international child abduction, which is cited by most leading authorities as the primary reason why a child is stolen, may now exist in post-reunification even after the child is home. I know none of this is easy. Now that you've heard me say all of these things, you might think that I must have fallen on my head a few times. I haven't. But perhaps you're thinking that what I am suggesting to you is to forget whatever happened in the past and that it doesn't matter. Well, I'm not saying these things at all. What I am suggesting is that you need to look at things from your child's perspective, needs, and best interest, both short and long term. In order to do so, anger and resentment fueled by ego, pain, and fear must be compartmentalized, not discarded. In its place must be an enforceable set of expectations and boundaries that both parents are accountable to uphold in the name of your child or children. And you must be mindful that revenge and anger probably still exist. There are a few simple things that some parents have found to be effective tools in helping children heal from a parental abduction. Allow your child time to play, laugh, and sing. You might even want to join them when they're doing this. I know I do this all the time. Ultimately, your child needs a loving, safe environment that allows them to act like a child. What your child needs is to trust again while embracing love without fear of retribution. Remember, nobody said any of this is going to be easy. However, if you're in a position to think about these issues that I have brought up, there's a good chance that the difficult part of the journey you, your child, and your former spouse have traveled on may now be over. But that depends on how both of you act as parents. Before a healing period occurs, this too can have a long-term range of consequences on the children as it prolongs and continues with abuse. The justice system is not a fair one at all times. However, parents can choose to practice fairness as this is in the best interest of our children. One last piece of advice. Keep your eyes open at all times while creating the best possible open, loving, and supportive environment for your child. Remember, there was a time not too long ago where you probably thought that you would never see your child again. So take each and every day and celebrate it. I'm Peter Thomas Senese, the author of Chasing the Cyclone. Thanks for stopping by.